he was dating a woman who was a fairy, an Irish fairy woman, but he was also kind of seeing her sister on the side, and she got mad and she cursed him.
Hello, I'm Chris Abernathy, author of the Detective Whiskers Cozy Mystery Series and your host for the Cozy Pet Podcast. This is where we go behind the scenes and get the real scoop on our favorite felines, canines, and other animals of the cozy mystery world. Each episode includes an exclusive interview with a cozy mystery author who joins us to talk about the pet or pets in their books. And today we're going to find out all about Rune, the feline star of the Haunted Housekeeping series. So here to tell us about Rune is author R.A. Muth, also known as Becky. So hi, Becky. How you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I've got my beads on. I live just
Cool.
outside Mobile, and we just kicked off Mardi Gras season. Mobile's the original home of Mardi Gras, so um, got to be representing here. We actually went downtown on Saturday, and there are a lot of people out already celebrating. So
Oh, cool.
yeah,
Did you get any snow a couple weeks ago?
only about 7 inches.
Yeah. I'm on the South Carolina coast, and it we got about probably about 5 inches, and it shut down our town for 3 days. We had no mail, nothing, like everything was shut down. So we never get snow here.
Now we get snow, dusting every few years down here.
Yeah,
But never. It was the all-time record. The previous record was set like in 1890 or so.
yeah.
So it had been around for a long time.
Yeah, one of our neighbors was talking about the big snow of 1989. I'm like, I was still in high school then, so
The biggest one I've ever been part of was I was in North Alabama when the blizzard of 93 happened, and I got snowed in at the radio station for 3 days.
oh wow.
And it kind of made my career in radio because every other radio station and TV station in the area was knocked off the air. None of them had power.
Hmm.
And I'm not going to get into the story of how I ended up at the radio station, but I was right place, right time, and the lifeline for the community for 3 days. So, I lived off Girl Scout cookies for a while, but it was a neat experience. So, all right, now we got to get in here and talk about
Yes.
your series. But first, I got to say that, the Haunted Housekeeping series, if I ever discover that my house is haunted, it would be really cool if the ghosts could be housekeepers who clean up my mess while I sleep.
Yeah.
But that's not what happens in your series, though, is it?
No, unfortunately not.
So,
So what happens is the main character, Tori, and her best friend Hazel, they open a housekeeping business. And they very quickly discover they hate housekeeping. So they decide in the first book, they decide they're going to try cleaning someone's attic and just cataloging the contents. And that's where um, they show up on the second day. There's a rotten smell coming from the trunk, and it happens to be the homeowner. And then there's a black cat shows up, Rune,
mhm.
and the local police officer, who's Hazel's brother, says, well, this cat needs to go to the shelter. And Tori says, no, they'll kill it. I'll take it home with me. And at the minute Hazel leaves, Tori turns around
All right,
and there's
let
a,
me pause you for just a
yes,
second here.
okay,
Before we get any
yep,
further, I'm going to tease the audience just a little bit with some details from your books talking about Rune. Okay, so here's a
okay,
line directly from book two. If our relationship were a social media status, I would describe it as it's complicated.
hmm,
That's not normally something we say about our pets, okay? Uh,
nope,
and then um, shortly after that line, Rune goes out in the street and does some authentic Irish dancing.
yes,
Also, something that we don't typically associate with cats,
yes,
but you're going to make it sound okay, maybe not. You're going to help us understand it here when you
yes.
continue your story. So now you can go move on.
Okay. So Tori turns around and as I was typing this, I'll never forget, I'm typing it and she turns around and there stands a 6 foot tall smoking hot Irishman. And I'm like, wait a minute. So I asked my publisher at the time, and I have all the book rights back, but I asked my publisher at the time and I said, is this a problem? And she said, no, run with it. And my publisher at the time was Molly Fitz, who also writes paranormal cozy mysteries.
Mhm.
So, as it turns out, Rune was cursed to live as a cat until the curse was broken. And the curse seems to be broken, and he seems to be a man full time that everybody can see. But I'm working on book 5, and I found out that that's not the case, and there's more to come.
All right. So that was a question I have. How much he's been cursed to be a cat, but he is also a human. That's who he really is as a human, and we do
Yes.
see him in human form. How much do we
Mhm.
see him in cat form in the series?
We don't see him in cat form very often until book 5.
Okay.
So, but they have to explain the disappearance of the cat. So their neighbor is like, here's a cat that looks exactly like him, but it has a little white patch on his, on his throat. So,
So he adopts a cat and then has to
mhm.
adopt another cat,
Yeah, she has like a
explain why
decoy
people
cat.
aren't seeing the first cat.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's yeah,
All right. So is she a cat person to begin with?
she is.
Okay.
So yeah, she's a pet person, but her late husband, who she did not murder, and as it turns out in the prequel story, it's this, it explains all that. And so her late husband was allergic, and he wouldn't let her have pets. So
Mhm.
then when she had the chance, she's like, well, I'll just take him home with me because I'd rather have a cat than, another guy living with me.
There
And then
you go. So does she end up, does Rune live with her?
temporarily in the guest room, and then he and the police officer become friends and they bunk there, but then when their relationship starts, he moves back in. So
So he's got
yeah.
he's got the police officer and the 300-year-old Irishman living in the house with her.
No, 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 no. The policeman has his own space. They're she and the policeman, because the policeman's her best friend's brother, and they've kind of been sworn frenemies since middle school when they all met. And he
Mhm.
picks on her. He calls her Queen Victoria and has little other names for her and threatens to arrest her for nonsense things. And
Okay, so I've probably managed to get a few people a little bit confused by some of the things that I'm throwing in here. So let's make sure everybody's back on the same page here. So Rune is a man in Ireland in the
mhm,
1800s who gets
yes.
cursed to be a cat,
Hmm.
and Corey discovers him
Yeah.
in the attic of a house that she's cleaning. And
Hmm.
now, most of the time in the series, we see him as a human, although he doesn't
Yes.
appear to be 300 years old. He's
No.
not like the Crypt Keeper.
No, he's like frozen in time.
Okay. Um, and so they have these adventures and stuff going on where nobody knows except for her. And I think one of her friends knows, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Um, Going on. So then they have all these adventures and we get to have
Mhm.
that. But he's trying to get this curse broken, right?
Yes, he wants it broken once for all because back in Ireland, back like 200 years ago or whenever, he he was dating a woman who's a fairy, an Irish fairy woman, but he was also kind of seeing her sister on the side, and she got mad and she cursed him.
They'll do that, seeing the
Yeah,
sister on the side, that'll get you cursed.
yeah,
Not that I have personal experience with that. Just want to make that
yeah,
abundantly clear.
yeah. I've never been on I've never had anyone date me and try to date my sister. She's 11 years younger, so it would have been creepy, but yeah.
Mhm. All right. So let me ask this. How much has 2 or 3 centuries of living as a cat affected Rune's personal identity? Now, has he taken on cat qualities while in human form?
Occasionally he'll be like meow, just teasingly and things like that.
Mhm.
So, but like they he calls Google the goggle, and he's very, for some reason, he like just picks up cooking, and like he's very very good at cooking, which is good because Tori is very very good at ordering out.
Yeah, so that's a good thing. If I adopt a cat and they start cooking for me, yeah, I could live with that.
Yeah, I'm a dog person. I have 3 dogs, and there's a dog in the series, but he belongs to the neighbor,
Mhm.
a little yappy dog, and so riding a cat was fun. So
Mhm.
I haven't had a cat since I was a kid.
Yeah, neither have I, and it's I love cats. I'm more a cat person than a dog person, really.
Mhm.
But ever since I got married, I've had dogs, and
Yeah.
that's a discussion that we're not going to get into. But by writing the Detective Whiskers
Mhm.
series, I get to have a cat. It's my cat that can do anything I want him to, and
Yeah.
so sometimes he doesn't sit in my lap. I don't get to have that, but I've got that with my nephew and niece cats. My
Yeah.
brother's got a couple of cats, and we got a neighbor that has some that we get to take care of occasionally. But that's about it for me and the real world cats. So it's fun to
Yeah.
be able to write about cats and bring them back into my life. So
Yeah.
Rune became a cat in the early 1800s. That's before any of this technology that we take for
Yep.
granted today. So you talk about Google and Goggle.
Yeah.
Um, is Rune able to adapt to things like computers
He
and
adapts
airplanes and
pretty
robot
quick.
vacuum
Yeah.
cleaners and
Yeah, he adapts pretty quickly. He loves video games. Like, so,
so he's not stuck in the
no.
18th century or 19th
No, in
century.
some ways he is. Like in the when you mentioned the scene with him dancing. So what happens at the beginning of book two, it's they're having the town festival and the local dance troupe is doing some Irish clog dancing, and it's all little kids. And
Hmm.
he's like going out in the street and like he's like they're practicing in the street outside of in book two, they try opening a thrift store or like a little antique store. So he's out in the middle of the street in front of the store going, no, no, you're doing it wrong. Let me show you.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. Um, so when it gets down to the mystery part of the stories,
mhm,
we talked about the characters. We haven't talked about the stories at all, really.
mhm.
Um, does Rune play a big role and is Corey the one that's solving the murders? Is
Oh,
Rune
yeah,
having a big part of that? Or
it's Tori and Hazel who have the business. So Tori, she's pretty much the main sleuth. Hazel is genuinely helpful, but Rune is not very helpful. At the end of book two, Corey's life is at stake by another woman. Another woman's like, she's gonna kill her. And Corey's like, Rune, little help here? And he's like, oh, I can't hurt a woman. It wouldn't be gentlemanly. Are you freaking kidding me? Like, come on. And someone else does help Tori, but it's not Rune. He's too much of a gentleman to take out another woman, even if the woman is, threatening his, Tori's life. So
wait a minute. I know some Irishmen. Too much of a gentleman? Come on. Okay, the ones I know aren't centuries old.
yeah,
I dated an Irish girl for a while, but we're definitely not going to get into that.
yeah,
So,
yeah. I have one Irish friend, and every like I'll run certain things by him that Rune says. I'm like, okay, is this believable? How can I make it more believable? So
mhm.
that's always helpful.
So what are some things about your books that if I pick up a book that I don't see the cover and I just open it up halfway through and start reading, what am I going to see that's going to tell me, oh, this is an R.A. Muth book?
Um, a lot of humor. Um, I'm my husband says that I'm very sarcastic, but we won't talk about that. So to quote you,
Yeah.
but yeah, a lot of snarkiness, a lot of humor. Um, I like to read so I can escape real life, and that's what I want to give my readers is an escape. If they're having a bad day, or even if they're having a good day, I want my books to be able to like give them a laugh. I want to create characters that people care about that feel like someone who you want to live next door to.
I think that's kind of the magic of cozy mysteries, isn't it? That somebody gets killed, and that's not a small thing, but we still are able to tell the stories, hopefully, in a way that the readers feel good, not just at the end. They're definitely going to have a good feeling at the end of the book, hopefully, but also throughout the book. The experience of taking that journey, you've still got that feeling of even though some bad things are happening, you know what? I'm surrounded by some friends, or I've got one or two really good friends. I've got somebody that cares about me,
Mhm.
and it may get tense a little bit at times, but we're never too far away from a laugh, and we can see some human growth and see the characters finding their way in life without it just being beaten over our heads, right?
Right.
It happens a little bit at a time, and it's just stories that we can enjoy, and we don't have to take
Yep.
them too seriously. We just have fun with it, and hopefully,
Mhm.
when we close the book up or turn off the Kindle or whatever, we have a positive feeling that sticks with us for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my first books I read was the Myrtle Clover series by Elizabeth Van Craig. And the sleuth is like this 80-year-old woman, and her son is the police chief who lives across the street. And whenever she gets mad at him, he sets out all her garden gnomes. Well, my youngest son is a fireman and he hates garden gnomes, and he lives with me, and like I will hide garden gnomes like through the house. And so like that really like that was like, oh, this, I can really relate to this. And so that's another, like, I want people to feel, relatable. Like in the first two books, and in the prequel series in book one, and probably like halfway through book two, um, Tori's relationship with her mom is really strange. She's like, and she compares her to, like, well, in high school my mom was like Dorothy from the Golden Girls, but now she's kind of like Blanche. So she compares her to like the Golden Girls characters. Like she could be any Golden Girl at any time.
Yeah.
And so in book four, he visits her mom in South Carolina, where her mom is temporarily living, and they grow really close, a little closer in book two, but a lot closer in book four.
Mhm.
And so then in book five, her mom, will spoiler, her mom is living in the town where Tori lives full time, across the street. So
So, what's the status of the series? You were talking about book five. Where are
so
we in the series? Where are we going?
I was going to end it at book six, and I was talking with my editor, who is a cat person. She has 10 cats, and I am highly allergic to cats. It's within the last probably 10, 15 years. And when I walk in her house, I cannot even tell she has one cat unless I see them, because her husband is very OCD
Mm.
and about like housekeeping and things. So she kind of has her own personal Rune, who's like very always tidying up and things like that. So that's, and my husband's a retired firefighter, and he's the same way. He's always like, it's like he's at the firehouse, so it's like always wiping something down or dusting or sweeping or something. I'm like, honey, go for it.
All
So
right, you're making some people really jealous right now.
yeah, I'm not going to say anything else because I don't need competition. No, checking.
I think
So,
I have to actually hold back some
mhm.
on some of the housekeeping. My wife is never going to watch this, so I can say it. All right, she's not the neatest person in the world. I did not marry her for a neat house. I'm fine with that. I would generally keep things a little bit neater than she would, not perfectly neat. I'm certainly not OCD or anything, but I find myself actually not doing some chores because if I do too much, I'm afraid I'm going to make her feel bad for not doing
Yeah.
as much. She's going to feel like she's got it. Maybe that's not real. Maybe she would
Um,
just appreciate it all. But
yeah,
you got
we
to
don't
fit
have that
those
problem.
relationships out over the decades, don't you?
Yeah, we don't have that problem here. Like, something like, honey, I'm just going to do it wrong so that you'll come behind me and do it right. Like,
All right.
yep.
So we are going to continue on with the series there. People will
Yes.
tell us some more.
Yeah, they want more. So I have planned through book eight right now.
Hmm.
So, but I like writing in sets of three. So like if there's gonna be a book eight, there's gonna be a book nine, because then, I have one, two, three in a omnibus, then four, five,
Yeah.
omnibus and sets of three.
Yeah. That's the
So
same
yeah.
thing I've done with Detective Whiskers. I just in
Mhm.
December wrapped it up with book nine. So that series is now complete. I'm thinking of different things I can do with the characters and separate stuff. The characters aren't necessarily gone, um, but uh, but that series is now wrapped up at nine. I think yeah, sets of three really works
Yeah,
well.
it does. And I have another series coming out with pets, called the Magical Bean series.
Uh-huh.
And that one features a character named Zip. Her actual name is Zipfora, but her nickname is Zip. Her sidekick is her ex high school boyfriend, but they've remained friends, and he calls her Zipper, which she hates. But she's running an errand for her aunt, and she stops and gets some coffee at his little strange town in South Carolina. and she hits a bump and the coffee spills out into the floor of the vehicle. And the her cat and dog are with her and they start drinking the coffee. And she's like, no, no, bad dog, don't do that. And the dog looks up and for the first time ever speaks and says, I'm not bad. I'm not a bad dog. Yeah.
I've gotten that look many times, but I've never actually had it said to me.
They'll say it, but not with words. But yeah, so it's fun. She has a little like kind of pit bull mixed puppy that, white with a little patch over his eye, and a three-legged cat named Basil. And
So that's the Magical Beans
hmm yep,
mystery.
yeah, the prequel's out, and the first book in the series is coming this fall.
Any pets in that one? Or
Mm,
obviously, yeah, you were just talking
Yeah,
about.
the no, you're good. The dog and the cat, and it takes place in a little town in South Carolina, kind of like the town where I moved. So,
All right, very cool. So people can get into the series with Rune right now, the
yep.
haunted housekeeping series, and a few more books still to come in that. And we're working on the Magical Bean series. So those will all be coming. The prequel's out now. If people want to find out more about your writing and other books that you've got and how to stay in touch with you on social media and all that, where can they do
It's
that?
just BeckyMuth.com.
Becky Muth, that's Muth.
Mm,
Okay. Becky, short for Rebecca.
yes,
Yeah, so that's where the RA Mothra. Okay, there we go.
yes, it is. Yep.
All
Yeah,
right.
I needed a pen name because it was a different genre. I was writing sweet romances myself,
Mhm.
and then I needed a pen name, and I was like, you know what? I'm like, sweet romance and cozy mystery. They follow a lot of the same standards, like,
Yeah,
no cursing, um, closed door adult situations if they happen at all, no violence and gore. So,
yeah. The same readers I think enjoy both a lot of the
mhm,
times, and it's like, okay, am I in the mood for something romantic, or am I in the mood for something just a little bit crazy, um,
yeah,
and just a little bit quirky that I can just disappear into. So that's a good thing to have both of those, and so check her out, BeckyMuth.com. And if you want to check me out, facebook.com/author Chris Abernathy, or my website is authorchrisabernathy.com. Thank you for joining us for this edition of the Cozy
yeah,
Pet Podcast. And be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel or the Spotify or iHeart or wherever it is that you are enjoying this podcast. It's all over the interwebs. And just subscribe so that you can get the next episode when it comes out. And now you've got some new books to read. So I will see you next time on the Cozy Pet Podcast. Thanks. Bye.
thank you.